What if, in just one night, everything you believed about security vanished? In Ukraine, a double hypersonic strike just changed the reality of war. There was no warning, no defense system that even reacted, only sudden, unimaginable destruction. Entire command centers and vital supply lines were wiped out in moments. For the first time, defenses trusted for years simply failed. Surveillance networks went blind. Radio silence fell as chaos echoed across the front. Where once there was certainty, now there is only the shock of what cannot be stopped. And then, on the front lines, something even more unexpected appeared. White flags. Not the classic symbol of surrender, but a wordless cry of exhaustion, soldiers physically and psychologically spent. This isn't about giving up. It's about reaching the limits of human and technological endurance. Is this moment the end of the war as we knew it? Or are we witnessing the opening scene of something even more unpredictable? After a single night, the old rules are gone, and no one is sure what comes next. Ignore this, and the cost will be steep. Beliefs about safety, technology, and deterrence will leave nations, armies, and leaders dangerously unprepared for the new era now unfolding. To understand how one night rewrote the rules, let's go back to what actually happened and why the world will never be the same. Let's break down the events of that night and see how a new weapon shattered not just defenses, but assumptions about power itself. Before the night fell, the world still believed in old rules and old defenses. In Ukraine, the war had sunk into a grinding stalemate. Months of fierce fighting, Western aid, and high morale had drawn clear lines, each side clutching their strengths, each expecting another day, much like the last. Yet, beneath the surface calm, technology was rewriting the map. Hypersonic weapons, so fast they outpace sound, so advanced they have no equal, had loomed on the horizon, spoken of in briefings, but never truly tested on a modern battlefield. Both armies, and their allies, trusted in their layers of protection. Bunkers built deep, air defenses on alert, new systems from across the ocean. There was a sense that something, somewhere, would always shield them. But faith in these old safeguards was a double-edged sword. Clinging to familiar routines and trusted systems lulled millions into a false sense of security. Precious time and resources slipped away, all while the real danger grew faster than anyone could adapt. The world was poised on the edge of a dangerous illusion, that the next day would be just another in a long war of attrition. No one realized that, in a single moment, those assumptions would shatter. But then, in the silence, everything changed. In that breathless calm, a new kind of weapon arrived, changing not just the battlefield, but the psychology of the entire conflict. When reality outpaces imagination, even the strongest walls turn to dust. The night was eerily silent. No missiles overhead, no hum of drones, not even a whisper of wind. It was as if the world was holding its breath. Then, in that unnatural quiet, 2 hypersonic missiles struck. The first hit was surgical, targeting the main Ukrainian command post. In a single heartbeat, concrete bunkers that had taken years to build disintegrated into powder. The pressure wave swept away everything within hundreds of meters. Equipment melted, comm screens flickered and died, and command lines went dead. There was no warning, just blinding light and instant chaos. Minutes later, the second missile found its mark, a military depot packed with Western ammunition and equipment. Flames shot sky high, casting a false dawn for kilometers around. Where once were orderly rows of vehicles and supplies, only scorched craters and twisted metal remained. Radio silence was total, the air thick with dust and confusion. No air defense system fired. Not a single tracking station so much as blinked. The speed of hypersonic weapons blinded sensors and nullified decades of investment. All the elaborate defenses, all the careful planning, erased in the time it takes to draw a breath. Panic swept Kiev. With command cut off and official channels collapsing, desperate calls for Western reinforcements met only silence or vague assurances. Even foreign advisors, realizing the scale of the breach, quietly left the city. The sense of control was gone, replaced by the cold knowledge that nothing and no one was untouchable. It was a decisive demonstration. A single technological leap had made years of preparation obsolete, shattering not just concrete, but morale itself. In the aftermath, leaders found themselves paralyzed, no longer sure where the next blow would fall, or whether resistance was even possible anymore. Yet as the dust settled, it became clear that the true shockwave was not physical, but psychological. Ukraine and the world now faced a new question. When technology erases hope, what does surrender really look like? When the dust settled, nothing was left but silence, fear, and a new symbol rising from the ruins. Across the shattered landscape, white flags appeared, not as official surrenders, but as wordless signals of exhaustion and acceptance. Soldiers tied scraps of cloth to burnt-out vehicles, not out of protocol, but because hope itself seemed to have melted away. It was not defeat they raised, but the stark confession that resistance against such weapons felt futile. On social media, images of white fabric fluttering over twisted metal spread like wildfire. The world watched as the white flag transformed into something new. Not just a mark of giving up, but a raw acknowledgement that the limits of endurance had been reached. It became the symbol of a war's breaking point, when continuing to fight would mean only more ashes and loss. Inside Kiev's bunkers, Ukrainian officials uttered words they never thought they would, that holding out against the unthinkable was no longer possible. "We cannot fight physics," one parliament member confessed. Even frontline commanders, hardened by years of struggle, admitted that every strategic site now lay exposed. Nowhere was truly safe anymore. Western analysts scrambled for answers. Some called it a demonstration, others a warning, but all struggled to explain away what was plain to see. Defense ministers assembled in midnight meetings, markets plummeted, and every capital in the West felt the tremors of uncertainty. With the old rules shattered, the sense of invulnerability vanished in an instant. A new, chilling realization swept through governments and citizens alike. If hypersonic strikes could erase command centers and ammo depots in moments, then any treasured asset, anywhere, could be next. The foundations of military strategy were rocked, and the psychological shock was as great as the physical destruction. In this vacuum of certainty, voices calling for negotiations grew louder. For the first time in months, the word peace re-entered official statements. The world stood at a crossroads. Clinging to unwinnable battles would only cost more lives and hope. The urge to rethink, to talk, to seek a new path, became urgent and real. With illusions shattered and symbols transformed, the question now hangs in the air. What happens next, when both might and morale have collapsed? But as new realities take hold, behind closed doors and in anxious capitals, leaders must wrestle with the hardest choice yet: how to respond to a world where no defense feels certain. The real weapon was not the missile, but the message it sent: adapt or be left behind. Hypersonic weapons have not only changed the battlefield, they have rewritten the psychology of conflict itself. Overnight, old doctrines and trusted defense plans crumbled, revealing how quickly the rules can change for those who fail to keep pace. With these strikes, Russia made a point to emphasize precision and a strict focus on military targets. The message was clear. This was not about revenge, but a cold demand for peace, delivered with the speed of sound and the certainty of science. Military leaders everywhere now face a sobering reality. Pride, bluster, and escalation offer no protection against weapons that cannot be intercepted. The need for diplomacy, flexibility, and humility is no longer optional. It is a matter of survival in a world where yesterday's strategies are obsolete. For ordinary people, the fear has changed shape. No longer is it the fear of bombs overhead, but of a silent, unstoppable force, a shadow moving faster than thought. This new terror drives home an urgent truth. Ending the conflict before it escalates beyond control is no longer just the hope of the exhausted, but the only rational path. Those who cannot adapt, politically, militarily, or even mentally, risk not just irrelevance or ruin, but the possibility of being caught unprepared when the next strike comes. The lesson is as unforgiving as the technology itself. So, as the world recalibrates and old certainties vanish, the final choice is laid bare. In the aftermath, we must ask, who will recognize this new reality, and who will cling to the past? The answer may decide the future of peace, or the next wave of destruction. When speed becomes the language of power, will we keep talking, or finally start listening? The world just witnessed something irreversible. In a single night, established defenses crumbled, and decades of military doctrine became obsolete. Hypersonic weapons did not just destroy targets, they erased the illusion of safety, forcing everyone, leaders, soldiers, and citizens, to confront a new reality. Now the white flag no longer means surrender. It represents exhaustion, a silent call for a pause, and a moment to reconsider the meaning of strength. This is not about who wins or loses the next battle. It is about whether we dare to rethink the assumptions that brought us here in the first place. Are we brave enough to demand new kinds of leadership, leaders who understand that, in this era, true power is the wisdom to change course before catastrophe becomes inevitable? If we refuse this challenge, peace becomes impossible and escalation becomes certain. The future, peaceful or catastrophic, depends on how quickly we accept that strength now means knowing when to change course, not just when to strike harder or faster. So, in this critical moment, ask yourself, when the speed of destruction outpaces the speed of diplomacy, will we insist on more talk, more weapons, or will we finally listen to what this silence is telling us?